late getting on here. I know I said it would be like between 12:30 and 1, but it's just a little bit after 1. Had a little trouble getting Noah to sleep today, but anyway, we are here to talk about all things Royal Icing and piping and flooding with Royal Icing. So this is the very basic foundation of decorating cookies with Royal Icing. Basically, this is step 1. So I'm going to show you how to go from fresh out of the mixer Royal Icing like this. And if you want to get the recipe for this Royal Icing, I've linked that in the video description. You can get that on my website. You'll just pop your email in that little box and it'll send you to a little recipe card where you can get this icing recipe. Hey Patty. Sorry, I'm out of breath. Whew. I was rushing to get my icing done. But this is what it looks like straight out of the mixer. Hey Danielle. And I'm going to show you how to get this to a flood consistency. Now this is what I would call a stiff piping consistency. You can see that there's no give in that. It's a very stiff peak. It doesn't fall over when you pull it up from the bowl and hold it like this. It stays straight up. This is perfect for flowers. This is perfect for when you're doing like those fine detail work and things like that. Now, if you are piping toothpaste consistency that I talked about the other day on the how to monogram a cookie video, if you're using a writing or lettering or something consistency where you're trying to, you want it to be workable enough that it will have some give and not so stiff, but you don't want it to quite be flood consistency, you're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of water to a large ice cream scoop of icing. My ice cream scoop was dirty today, so I just eyeballed it. But that's going to give you about toothpaste consistency. It's not going to be quite as thick, but it's still going to be plenty thick enough that it'll do the writing you need it to. That is just a little thicker than my toothpaste consistency that I was talking about. So I'm going to add just a little less than 1/4 cup of water, not 1/4 cup, sorry, 1/4 teaspoon of water this time. And we'll see if that gets it to that toothpaste consistency. Here we go. That's about the consistency of toothpaste, and that's perfect for writing. But if you want just the consistency that I use to flood cookies, which is what we're talking about today, you're going to add 1 teaspoon of icing to fresh out of, y'all, I've had too much coffee today. I can't keep my words straight. You're going to add 1 teaspoon of water to fresh out of the mixer icing. So I've already added 1/4 teaspoon. I'm just going to go on and add 3/4 in addition. And that's going to give us something close to our flood consistency. Now, if you watch another video on icing consistency on YouTube, a lot of times they'll talk about how many seconds the icing is. That means how many seconds it takes to kind of flow back together. So I'll show you. We'll count the seconds on this icing. It's a great way to start if you're not quite used to Royal Icing consistency yet. It's a great way to see if you're where you want to be. So you see I've taken my spoon and I've kind of dolloped a little bit along the surface right here. Sorry, my nails are awful. We're watching right here and seeing how long that takes to flow back into the rest of the icing. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And then you can see it's pretty much flowed back into the icing and it looks almost even with the surface with the rest of the icing. So that is a 20-second icing consistency. This is what I use all the time for my flooding. Some people like to use a 20-second icing or thicker for outlining, and they do an outline of thick icing on their cookie and then they fill with a thinner icing. Some people put a little more water in it, and they bring it down to like a 10 or 15 second icing, so that when they look at that little stripe that they've done in the middle, it flows back together in 10 seconds or 15 seconds. And that looks more like a chocolate syrup type consistency to me. But I just prefer using one consistency for everything I'm doing. It just makes my life easier. So I've put that royal icing into a cup lined with a tipless piping bag. Then I pull that out, give it a little twist, and I like to use this automatic bag tire that I got from Amazon. It's like $20, I think, and it's super handy. If you're doing a lot of bags, this is really, really helpful. But if you're just doing 1 or 2 bags at the holidays, there's really no need to buy this. Use a chip clip or a clothespin or something like that. So I'm going to try and fix this so that y'all can see it well. You can download this piping and flooding practice sheet that I'm going to be working on today on my website. I've put a link to that in the video description. That's another one of those forms where you can just go in and add your email, and you can print this off just like I did, put it in a page protector, and then you can pipe, flood, do all that right on this page protector so that you don't waste cookies practicing. Because I've used a lot of cookies on practice runs, and this just makes it easy to learn and take your time and not feel pressure to be perfect. And once you finish, just take a paper towel, wipe it off, and start all over again. You're good to go. So, I want my piping tip. This is a tipless bag. I've talked about these before. You can get them on Amazon. I'm going to take my scissors and snip the tip off. It's going to be pretty small. I would say maybe about 1 centimeter across, if y'all can see that. And we're going to start with the very basics of how to just pipe a plain old line. And we're doing this on a piece of paper, or on my page protector here. So, I put this dot at the end of this arrow to show you where to plant your icing. I like to say that in my classes. You give your bag just a tiny, tiny squeeze and plant the icing that comes out right there. Pull up and start guiding it down as if you're pulling a string. So you're going to give a tiny squeeze and plant your icing. Pull it up and guide it just like you would a string all the way down that line. Practice that a few times. Plant it so that it touches the surface of what you're icing. Pull it up. You don't want to wait too long on that plant because it'll pull just like mine did. And you'll just kind of pull it like you would a string. And you can see on this bag, this is how much I'm squeezing. This is holding with no squeeze. And this is a little tighter squeeze. Okay, so Patty says, how did you cut your bag? You find the seam on your bag, just like this. And this is why it has to be those tipless piping bags, because if it's one of those disposable ones, it's a little bit different. But you'll follow that seam and you'll fold the bag so that the seam is at the top. And then you'll just take your scissors and cut right across that seam so that the scissors are, is that perpendicular? I need my old math teachers who said I would use math one day to give me an I told you so and tell me if that's perpendicular. I think it is. Yeah, but straight across of that seam. And it's just a tiny, tiny snip at the top of that bag. Can you see how big it is? Yeah, it's very tiny. But anyway, once you get that bag cut, we're going to do one more where we plant, pull, and just let it fall. I like to think of it as kind of guiding it where it's supposed to fall. And once you've kind of gotten the hang of that, we're going to try some longer strokes with this icing. Plant it down, pull it up, and you'll start moving your hand across. Just like that. Now, the perfect line does not exist. That's the great thing about cookie decorating. It doesn't have to be perfect. And when it isn't perfect, just like that, because it inevitably won't be, there's never going to be a perfectly iced cookie. That's why we have this little scribe tool. It's to help us even out the edges if the piping doesn't go exactly perfectly. So I'm going to do one more long run and going straight across. Now, if you see how I'm holding my wrist like this, I put 2 fingers under my wrist. If you find the crease in your wrist on the bottom, put 2 fingers just like this stacked on top of each other. Put them right there on your wrist so that you can support your hand as it goes across. Your hand's not going to be stable enough to make these pretty straight lines or any kind of line at all on its own. So you'll want to stabilize your hand with these 2 fingers. I like to rest my left elbow. I'm right-handed, so I like to rest my left elbow on the table, and then usually I rest my right elbow too. But my right hand is in the air, my left 2 fingers are in the air under my right wrist, and it's kind of providing some stability, and all I'm doing is moving my arm so that it's going in the right direction. Now we're going to try some curves. That's where it gets a little tricky. You're going to plant it again, and we're going to go straight, but as you see that you're coming up on that curve, start to pull your icing in the direction of that curve. This is why I made this page, because it probably won't look like this the first time you do it. You'll probably have some coming over here and in between and all that stuff, and that's okay. Just wipe it off and do it again as many times as it takes for you to feel confident. Because like I said, if it's not perfect the first time, that's why you've got this page protector, and that's why you're practicing. So 2 fingers under my right wrist, elbows resting on the table, plant, pull, and with barely any pressure on this bag, it's almost like the weight of the icing coming out of the end of the bag is pulling more icing from the bag for you. You're barely even pushing on the bag at all. Just a very, very light squeeze. There you go. So now we're going to work on squares. I like doing square cookies. They're just lines. Those are easier for me. Circles are a little bit more complicated for me. I'm going to wipe this off so that I can kind of slip it under my camera holder here, and y'all can see it better. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to work on squares. This is just using exactly what you learned with the lines. You're going to start at one corner. I like to start at the top left. I don't know why. It's just, I'm OCD and I do it in the same place every time. But I start at the top left, I plant and pull, and then I plant at the next corner. So you're touching the surface of what you're icing at each corner. Now normally I don't pick my bag all the way up, but because I'm talking y'all's ears off today, I pulled it up so that it wouldn't pool right there. But you're going to pick up where you left off, plant it again, and pull. And I'm going to go straight through here. We're going to pull, plant, and pull again. Plant, and pull again all the way up the side of that square. Now you can see here that my icing broke. That could have been an air bubble. It could have been that I wasn't putting enough pressure on the bag. But this happens all the time. It's nothing to stress about. Just touch it with the end of the icing that's on your bag and fill it in as best you can. Don't stress because we have a scribe for that. And now we're going to flood it. This is where I was talking about you use that 20-second consistency for the piping around the edge and the flooding in the center. I'm going to increase the pressure on my bag, and when I do that, so my pressure when I was piping the edges looked about like this. It was very gentle, not much at all. Now when I'm flooding, you're going to see on the paper towel how much is going to come out. I'm going to squeeze that bag for all it's worth. Really, really squeeze. You've got your 2 fingers, your thumb and your index finger, squeezing the top of the bag where you have it tied. That would be just under your chip clip if you're using a chip clip. And then your hand is squeezing with these 4 fingers, pushing into the palm of your hand. And then you're pushing as hard as you can, and you're getting a bunch of icing out. So we're going to do that inside of what we've popped now. And we're going in concentric squares. So we're moving from the outside toward the inside, slowly but surely. And the closer you can get your icing as you're going around, the easier it's going to be to even it out. Now it's not going to be perfect. As always, there's going to be some gaps, there's going to be some little pockets that don't get iced perfectly, and that's okay. But we're going all the way around, just like that. Okay. So now you're going to take your scribe, and you're going to bring it, using these little circular motions, toward the edges. It's weird doing this on a page protector instead of a cookie. I like to go back and forth a little bit on the sides just to make those look nice and straight. Kind of even out the middle. And when you're using a cookie, you can take the sides of the cookie and shake it, tap it on the table. With a page protector, I'm just going to give it a little shimmy. You'll wipe your scribe, and if you see any little pockets or anything coming up, just go ahead and wiggle over those. You're not going very far into the icing. If you go too far into the icing, you're going to see these deep, deep lines forming. And that's not what you want. You want to barely touch the surface of the icing. You're hardly even putting your needle into it. Okay, so let's do another one. We're going to plant at the top left corner, pull, and plant at the top right, plant and pull, plant and pull, plant and pull again. Now, I find it easier to make straight lines if I'm looking at where I'm going as I pop. So when I planted here, I started looking at this corner. I was thinking about making a straight line from here to here. So just like if you were batting in baseball or softball and you were looking, you look at the ball, right? I'm not a sports person. I knew before I started this sports analogy it was a bad idea. I think you're supposed to look at, in football, you're supposed to look at where it's being thrown. So you're looking at where you're going to help you make that straight line. Now, you may have noticed on the last one that I didn't put my piping bag right next to where I piped around the edges. If you do that, if the tip of your piping bag is right here and you go squeezing really hard like this, you can see that that's flowing over the edge of your pretend cookie. That's making a really thick piece of icing in the center, and it's going over where you popped. So if that happens, you can take your scribe and you can kind of reel it in here. It may look just a little wonky, but you can work on it until it looks a little more dainty, and you can pull that icing toward the center, just like that. But what you want to do is place your tip about, I'd call that 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch away from where you popped, and go around. So it's not right next to where you popped. You're allowing just a little bit of room for this icing to flow as you go around and around. So I've made one square around the outside of that. When I place my tip back inside that square where I'm going to continue flooding, again, I'm not placing it right next to it because that's going to cause this to kind of flow up onto one another. And it's not going to be a huge issue unless it's already close to spilling over the edge like this is. But I like to allow it ample room and just kind of give it some space when I flood. Going all the way around. Then taking my scribe and just going right back over that. So there's another square next to that one where you can practice. I'm not going to do that one today. I'm just going to cover circles real quick. Now circles, I'm going to be honest, they're the bane of my existence. I do not like doing circular cookies unless I'm putting a flower on them because they're kind of a pain in the tail. I love that puffy look too, Sherry. And you can get that puffy look. A quick note on the puffy look. If you want to really get a super puffy look, if you're trying to get a portion of your cookie or a whole cookie to look super full and have a lot of volume, you can cut your bag just a little bit thicker than this. In fact, I'll do that on the next cookie. Your line will be a little thicker if you cut just a little further back on your bag, and that's going to create a taller icing. I like to do them thin like this when I'm painting on them, especially just because you mainly just need a surface to paint on, and I like them to be flat. But if I want them to be super puffy, I'll cut it just a little thicker and put a little more icing inside when I flood. So for the circle, all I know to tell you is just to try your best to make the circle close to a circle shape on the outside as you do it. But for me, the key to circles is just being able to fix my mistakes. I've never been able to make a perfect circle. I just try to get close. And then just like I did with the square, I'm going to go around in those concentric circles, filling it up like that, and then adjust it with the scribe. Circles just take practice, honestly. The more you work on this curved arrow up here, and the more you just practice doing these, the better you'll get at them. And just practice fixing them with the scribe. Alright, so that's the smaller circle, and now we're going to do a couple of bigger ones. I'm just looking at where my bag is going. So as I'm piping here, I've got icing coming out here, but I'm looking in this zone, kind of like when you're driving. You're looking ahead of where you're going. And that's the best way I can tell you to get better at circles. You're looking ahead of where you're going. And then we're flooding just like we did with the square. I'm increasing that pressure and going around. And these are going to be really puffy because there's a lot of icing coming out as I squeeze. This 20-second icing is perfect because you don't have to do a whole lot of adjusting with your scribe. You have to do just a little, but if you just give it a little shimmy, it pretty much does the work for you. And we'll do one more circle. Plant and look where you're going. Look ahead of where you are. And try to make that your goal. I got a little out of whack over here, but that's okay. And then we're increasing pressure on our bag. We're squeezing with our 3 fingers coming as close to our palm as we can get it. You're thinking about touching your palm with the 3 fingers that are squeezing your icing bag. And fill that in. Give it a little rouge with the very, very tip of your scribe. Adjust these bubbles, make them nice and smooth. And you can let this dry. You can pull them off of here once they're dry, kind of pop them off like little stickers. Or you can just take a spatula like this one and scrape this off into the trash can and start all over. This is why this page is perfect for practicing on. You can just scrape it off, wipe it off with a paper towel, and start all over again until you feel good about practicing on some cookies. Like I said, you can find that download to download this page that you can just print and put in a page protector on my website. I've linked that in the description. And my Royal Icing recipe is also linked in the description. I hope this was helpful. If y'all have any ideas on cookie videos or decorating videos that you'd like me to do, anything you'd like to learn, or just that you have questions about or you'd like to see, let me know. Give me a comment on here. You can always send me a message. And if you'd like to learn more or just try your hand at cookie decorating without messing up your own kitchen, you can come to our cookie decorating class that we're doing at Watson House in Florence on July 2nd. I'll have a post about that going up again tomorrow night. So thank y'all for joining me today. I appreciate it. And thank y'all for giving me some grace when I was a little bit late. But I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good day. Bye.